Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up? This is Coach Get Funday back at it once again, kicking it for you and for yours. And before I get into this, I'll give a shout out to my ancestors who give me the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And also, I'll give a shout out to y'all. This right here is from the Ida B. Wells collection. Many people don't do or really reflect on Ida B. Wells' work. The first time I even heard the name Ida B. Wells, my ignorance was, being from the Midwest was a project in Chicago's in the low end. But Ida B. Wells has many methods of work that is very, very still relevant for today and the stuff that Black people go through today. So, that's why that's why I'm having this discussion about her stuff. And here it says, he's this year, one like it, black woman like it. And this is good about that. We're going to doing that. All right. You know, like down here. There's a man that said that you've been upstream. Just like about organization, all that organization, all kinds of any all things. And now it's about man was and she was story. Y'all can make sure that know your parents and that's right. So just be on and the five. What the hell? Last year, he was 13 grams on me. I'm not late here all wrong. So we need to reduce the amount of and dead supplies, like being with the land, and the furniture, and the way. Wait, I'm trying to run away. They arrange the pen up in there. It was 20 more. Hey, they were together in Harvard and got the spreads. Or can I give minutes? On May 1919, Wayne Moore, who asked about 10 of those, are still dudes, cursing and nicking him. What guys ran from no, I'm moving to the union. So we get into the hey, man, put that in one year. My country, and all women, place, my life, and they were all quiet. We went back to her house. Everyone was gone. She went to the house and she got and no, I know where she was. So she had to leave with only the clothes she stood in. Her whole year work gone and her husband in jail. John Nelson, another landlord, arrested and took her to Helena to jail, and she had gone back because the newspaper invited those who had gone away to return. She was kept in jail 8 days and made to work from 3 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. She and 15 other colored women. This John Nelson, who ran the farm of Wilford and White, was recognized by some of the colored people as one of the leaders of the mob. Dr. Parker was another of the leaders. Also was Mr. Curtis, who was a renter in the neighborhood. Ed Ware told about the mob killing a crippled old man named Charlie Wood Robinson and put him in his wife's bed. The two women were put in jail. Before doing this, however, they searched the house for Ed Ware. He was a secretary of the hated union. They opened trunks and drawers and took Ware's books, files, accounts with work people, secretary minutes, and Masonic Lodge books away from them. They shot into mirrors of the house and finished the light and destroying things. They left the old man body in the house for 4 days before they buried it. Long Neck and Jack gave Ware 3 rooms of furniture when they afterwards molested. So sidebar, Long Neck and Jackson gave Ware 3 rooms of furniture after sleep the cycle when they gave it to the books. After Miss Ware and the girl went with her in hard weeks, sleeping sometimes on concrete floors, they were 17 was told to go home because they always done, and never nothing more than equal oral consent. Mrs. Ware went back to get what she had left and found nothing. She saw her safe in Mrs. Brookstrike's house, and Mr. George had her chairs. A woman named Lula Black, who with her 4 children were working on the farm, was dragged out of her home by the mob and asked if she belonged to the union. She answered yes. They asked her why. She said because it would be a better condition for colored people, and when they worked it would help them get what they worked for. When she said that they had knocked her down, beat her over her head with their pistols, and kicked her all over her body, almost killing her, then took her to jail. The same mob went to Frank Hall's house and killed Frances Hall, a crazy old woman housekeeper, tied her clothes over her head, threw her body in a public road where it lay thus exposed until the soldiers came Thursday evening and took it up. Frank had gone to the gym with a load of cotton. He left the horse, wagon, and cotton to get away from the mob. His brother Paul had joined the union. He was shot at the foot and taken to jail and now awaiting execution. He and his brother owned 40 acres, which was in cultivation. His wife and his aged father are still there. James Moore, father of Frank Moore, although 65 years old, was farming 25 acres of land. He and his wife and his 4 younger children. He also belonged to the union and got away when the mob came. He too came back in assurance that the trouble was over. They told him to go ahead and gather the crops, which he did. He too was arrested in the trial. They have taken everything he had, every bit of crop he gathered, and drove his wife and small children off the place. They are now in Little Rock and Warren, while the father and husband is in prison. Will Knox, his wife, and 3 children were working 10 acres of land for 2/3 of the crop. They made 6 bales of cotton, the smallest bale weighing 550 pounds. When Knox was taking Wade, Longnecker, and Jackson, said he owed them $606 for the year's supply up to October 1st. 2 bales were sold to them at their price, which left a balance of $360. This meant Mrs. Knox owed $246 for the 2 bales of cotton sold to Longnecker, when at market price should have been received for that 1 bale of hay. So, sidebar, what you're saying is that 1 bale of hay out of the 6 they had made 6 bales of cotton, and the smallest one 155. That 1 bale of hay should have paid off that debt, and all the rest should have belonged to them. But because they were doing these cheap exorbitant prices, like we found in the last chapter, 24 cents per, per pound, instead of the 44 cents per pound, ganging for their money. That's why she was still in debt. Okay. She had 4 bales of hay left in the field and stayed to gather it. This too was overturned to the farm, and she was told nothing was coming to her because she still owed $25 in debt. In other words, 6 bales of cotton, the smallest thing weighing 550 pounds at 45 cents a pound, should have paid her debt of $600 and $6 and left Mrs. Knox with over $800 besides. They too are penniless and homeless. Ed Hicks, president of the 100 acres land rented. His wife was the only one to get her chickens and horse which she sold and realized a little money on. For 25 acres of cotton and 4 in corn, she received not a cent. All was taken from her. Everything else went to these people. When these women went to Helena after trial of their husbands, they were permitted to see them only once and had to pay $1 to each jailer for the privilege of doing that. Now, this is the summary. Now, this is a very important part where Ida B. Wells shows that racism, proven Dr. Carl Anderson and many other scholars write that racism is about to control the resources. Now, this is the summary. Ed Ware, 100 acres of cotton, 100 bales at $225 per bale, $22,500. Frank Hicks and Ed Hicks, 100 acres of cotton, 100 bales at 25 bales per bale, $22,500. Ed Albert Giles, 20 acres of cotton, 20 bales at 25 per bale, $4,500. Joseph Fox, 20 acres of cotton, 20 bales at $225 per bale, $4,500. John Martin, Alfred Banks, 32 acres of cotton, 32 bales at going at $225 per bale, $7,200. John Martin, 22 acres of cotton, 22 bales at $225 per bale, $4,900. William Wordlaw, 16 acres of cotton, 16 bales at $225 per bale, $3,600. Frank Moore, 14 acres of cotton, 15 bales of hay at $225 per bale, $3,100. Ed Coleman, 12 acres of cotton, 12 bales at $225 per bale, $2,700. Okay, 2,500. Frank Moore, 14 acres of cotton at 15 bales at $225, $3,100. Where did that? Let's see. Paul Hall, 40 acres of cotton, 40 bales of hay at $225 per bale, $9,000. The total was $86,050. This rough estimate of the yield of cotton bale to the acre, and the average bale weighed about 500 pounds, and the average price at 45 cents per pound. As a matter of fact, the average was near 50 cents per pound. This does not include the cotton seed, which at a higher market value is comparatively as cotton, nor does it include the 100 acres of corn raised by them, nor the stock, hogs, chicken raised by these men, all of which were stolen. It seems too high to estimate. It seems too high to estimate to say that these 12 men alone had 100,000 worth of cotton, corn, and cattle stolen from them by the mob, which stole their liberty and in there a fair way to steer their lives unless the nation intervenes. Unless the nation intervenes. So they really didn't come down. They was making all this money, and that's what it come down to. Just think 100,000 as a collective. How much is in 1919? How much would that be worth today? But let's keep reading. For the record, 75 of whom served in terms of imprisonment was not incomplete, but the glance of the list secure shows. Walter Gurley, 23 acres of cotton and corn, farmed for B.B. Stanley, Elaine, Arkansas. B. Earl, 30 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Dick Howard, Wabash, Arkansas. John and E.F. Foster, 40 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Dr. Cruz, Elaine, Arkansas. Will Hampton, 35 acres of corn and cotton, worked for R.P. Alderman, Elaine, Arkansas. J.T.W. Swats, 20 acres of corn and cotton, worked for George E. Blackburn, Melbourne, Arkansas. Andrew Goff, 20 acres of corn, cotton and corn, worked for Dr. Cruz, Elaine, Arkansas. Gilmore Jenkins, 15 acres of corn and cotton, worked for Billy Archdale, Elaine, Arkansas. Ed Mitchell, 40 acres of cotton and 5 in corn, worked for Dr. Fox, Elaine, Arkansas. David Haas, 15 acres of corn and cotton, worked for Longnecker and Jackson, Lane, Arkansas. Sykes Fox, 18 acres of corn and 7 acres of corn, worked for Deck Howard, Wabash, Arkansas. Will Curry, 70 acres of corn, cotton and corn, and worked for Wilford White, Hootspurs, Arkansas. Ed Baker, 25 acres of cotton and corn, and worked for C.L. Bazin, Elaine, Arkansas. Joe Liggins, 20 acres of corn, cotton and corn, and worked for Decker Howard, Wabash, Arkansas. Joe Messing, 30 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Decker Howard, Wabash, Arkansas. Joe Messing, 30 acres of corn, cotton and corn, worked for Decker Howard, Wabash, Arkansas. S.J. Jackson, 50 acres of corn, cotton and corn, worked for J.L. Jones, Elaine, Arkansas. Dan Rowlands, 20 acres of corn, cotton and corn, worked for R.P. Alderman, Elaine, Arkansas. D. Payne, 22 acres of cotton and corn, worked for S.S. Stroke, Elaine, Arkansas. Charlie Jones, 26 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Dr. Richard Lane, Arkansas. C.C. Hubert, 20 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Lambrook County and Company, Elaine, Arkansas. T. Dixon, 20 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Lambrook Company in Elaine, Arkansas. Archie Moore, James Moore, 35 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Billy Archdale, Elaine, Arkansas. Will Mack, 18 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Key Plantation, Wabash, Arkansas. Sam Barber, 22 acres of cotton and corn, worked for S.S. Stokes, Elaine, Arkansas. Abe Brown, 20 acres of corn, cotton and corn, worked for Dr. Cruz, Elaine, Arkansas. Dave Reed, 20 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Lambrook, Elaine, Arkansas. Henry Avant, 58 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Lambrook, Elaine, Arkansas. Charlie Hoover, 58 acres of cotton and corn, worked for Lambrook, Elaine, Arkansas. John Thomas, 35 acres of cotton and corn, worked for S.S. Stokes, Elaine, Arkansas. John Jefferson, 35 acres of cotton and corn, worked for R.P. Ottoman, Elaine, Arkansas. Bob Jackson, 32 23 acres of cotton and corn were for S.S. Stoker Lane, Arkansas. Walter Ward, 20 acres of cotton and corn were for Dr. Cruz Lane. Will Stewart, 50 acres of cotton and corn were for A.P. Arman, Lane, Arkansas. Jim Smith, 48 acres of cotton and corn were for Will Craig, Lane, Arkansas. Here are 34 of the 75 who were serving sentences ranging from 5 to 21 years. Less than half of the whole number, but this 35 cultivated over 1,000 acres of cotton and corn during the year of grace of 1919. If the remaining 41 did so as well, those 75 Negroes are serving the term in the penitentiary for having 2,000 acres of cotton and corn that the white man of Phillip counties could get away from them, and that in no other way by driving away from their crops and preferring charges against them. This means that the white lynchers of Phillip County made a cool $1 million last year off the cotton crop of 12 men who are sentenced to death and the 75 men who are in the Arkansas Penitentiary, and the 100 of whom they lynched outright and at off October 1st, 1919. And that not one of them has ever been arrested for this wholesale conspiracy of murder, robbery, and false imprisonment of these black men, nor for driving their wives and children out to suffer in rags and hunger and want. So they made a cool billion off that, off rip. Just from taking all the property from the black people, taking all their crops, all the resources they had. A cool $1 million, just from that one spot alone. And they cultivated over 2,000 acres of land and ganked them from them. Chapter 6, the Johnson Boys. No, we're going to go into this one a little bit later, but I want to make sure that people understand this point right here. I'm going to go into that part next time. But I want to make sure you understand about what they say about racism, about controlling resources. If she would have had all that, got paid the fair market value for the price of the cotton and the stuff and the labor she worked in, she been up out of debt and would have had about over $800 at that time in 1919, which is a lot of money, you know. But that's not really discussed, and none of them talked about that. You know, the reason for this was all economics, which is to put this, put the slave to the bang and to take away their money. And these riots is popping off now. Protect they shit. They ain't you watch us, and I'm about the next one. So